I started off by clearing out what I thought was appropriate for a medium-sized park, and then I expanded the sand textures that were previously there from the base map to enclose the area I would be working in. I wanted to create an area that will, for the time being, be both secluded and also attractive. I'm of course talking about a local beach park. I really enjoyed the look and appeal of sand dunes, and I figured the edge of this barrier island would be perfect. Normally, I hate the way that land texturing works in CS2 because you get these weird jagged diagonal textures. But personally, I don't think it looks too bad in this specific case, just because I know the sand does actually ripple like that in real life, unlike other materials like dirt and gravel. Next, I thought it would be important to establish walking connections. I'd love to see wooden boardwalks added into the game eventually, but for the time being, these covered walkways will have to work. Also, that reminds me, if anyone knows of a way to create artificial pedestrian traffic similar to how it is possible in CS1, please let me know. I would hate to build a beautiful park like this and then it just be vacant forever. Since this is based on Florida roughly, and unlike our real life government, I do actually care about my constituents at least a little bit, so I decided to add a few of these covered cabanas with benches inside for resting areas away from the sun. Also, a hot dog booth, and another one. With this basic area done, I did start to get the itch to do some landscaping, not to be confused with landscaper's itch. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about these large rocks, but I think it really does add to the finished product overall. I also really wish we had some more variety when it came to vegetation. I made it work with what I have, but it would be nice to have something more to the coastal pack than just, here's a couple new houses and 4 palm trees. Since there's not really a way to cheat the pedestrian walkway areas and have these areas be kind of forced to be used as parks, I did go ahead and add some sea life spawners. That way there will hopefully be some sort of dolphins or seagulls or something like that in this area. I felt like it would be good to add another small camp style section on the opposite side of the park. So I quickly threw down a few benches in a half circle and gave them a place to put their trash. A few little smoker grills definitely spiced up the people areas, giving a nice cozy summer cookout vibe. Next, it was important to have a place for the kids to play with some swings, a jungle gym, a sandbox, and a merry-go-round. And of course, a comfortable place for the parents to sit back and relax while watching close by. Alright, so this part I don't think really needs that much introduction or explanation. Obviously, since this is a park, just kind of wanted to add some parking area for people to visit. So I just kind of did these little parking row areas. Of course, this was before the most recent update where we got some additional new parking assets. So I just decided to use these parking roads and added some little covered bike parking on the side here as well. So with this next part, I honestly took about a minute of just sitting here looking at the area and kind of struggling where to decide to actually start this condo complex, which is of course what I'm doing in the next part. And I just really couldn't estimate a good distance in between these condos and this actual beachfront park. So what I ended up just doing is getting rid of what I had. And what I decided probably would look best is to use this swooping sidewalk style and kind of just naturally decide what felt good as a place to stop. With a solid stopping point decided, I needed to choose an appropriate sized land plot to clear. I didn't want it to go coast to coast, since I will be having the local highway on either side eventually, and some small zoning later on. The next logical part for this build was to find assets that I was going to use for this condo area, and funnily enough, I actually ended up finding the one that I wanted to use within, I want to say about 4 or 5 assets. I pretty quickly knew what I was looking for because I knew I needed a medium density. I was looking for something that wasn't going to be overly sized like that huge building, And I didn't want anything that was going to be too small and look like it was just going to be a regular kind of residential apartment building. So I found something that had like an underground parking, as well as at least 5 or 6 stories, and that just ended up kind of being perfect for what I needed. I think my favorite part about this project is that since it was an inspired proof of concept, a lot of my next steps came up as I completed each part of the build. Unlike some of my previous videos or whatever some other creators do, it's that I did not do any sort of rough draft build before recording. Instead of an actual build plan, I got to build this purely out of imagination. And while I do have a few pointers on things that I didn't quite like, I think the end product was something I can be satisfied with. Case in point are these little parking areas next to each building. Since this was recorded before the new update, I would probably try out some of the new parking lanes or structures, and I would also like to eventually build another complex similar to this with the new assets brought in by the recent creator packs. If this is something you would like to see me build, don't forget to let me know in the comments as well. The idea for this build was to create a set of luxury beachside condos with close proximity and a walking trail to the beachfront park that we built in the beginning of the episode. I wanted it to be centered around a community center, recreational area, or a small lake, but since this complex is currently located a decent drive from the rest of the city, and I felt like it inspired more creative control for the residents, more than likely snowbirds, and gave them something to do in their downtime. This will of course be mitigated later, the distance to the rest of the city, but for now I do feel like it's crucial for this community's recreational needs to be self-sustained. I didn't expect to, but actually really enjoyed playing around with road shapes in order to make this community feel organic and less gridded, while also maintaining a basic necessity for structure. As a person with autism, this game has really taught me to step out of my comfort zone and express my thoughts a bit more clearly in design and in other aspects of my life. And I always feel really good about myself after making something that's both functional and aesthetic. I don't know what it is, but it just always really feels great. I also thought that this type of community would probably be owned and operated by some sort of central leasing company instead of having independently owned buildings or units. So I decided to implement a central leasing office near the primary entrance to the complex. Finding an asset appropriate for this use was honestly sort of frustrating, since I felt like most of them were either way too large or way too small. I wanted something that would function as a leasing office, maintenance office, and a recreational center. I could also imagine them maybe having a small gym within this building. Anyways, I ended up eventually finding an office low building that I felt looked suitable. I wasn't going to go venturing through every single office asset to find something that was going to be exactly perfect for what I wanted, so this will suffice. For simplicity's sake, for the recreational outdoor area, I figured using the vanilla park assets would probably be easiest and most logical, since they already have the built-in happiness and outdoor recreational bonuses. So playing around with layouts and park styles kind of just felt like the best thing I could do. A small playground, basketball court, and tennis court all kind of made sense in my head to have near the office. So I played around and tried to see what all I could squeeze in without it feeling overly crowded. The main issue I have with the tennis courts is that there isn't really a way to build them without having access to a road connection. So no matter what I did, the error would still pop up every single time. And I tried it a few different configurations, and I've had this issue on previous save games as well that I just had completely forgotten about until I got to this issue. And so I gave up. I gave up pretty quickly. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I decided to just use Sully's tennis court sticker pack to create a floor plan, and of course some of the tennis court assets and an industrial fence to add a level of detail. I'm not even sure if I did this correctly, honestly, but I added some paths and workout areas and sports areas to the courts in hopes that it would become functional. Again, I have no clue. If anybody has any feedback on this or like how to actually make these functional, you know, again, comments, let me know. The next logical step is to create paths which would connect this area to the rest of the complex. Obviously, this isn't just going to be a park in the middle of the field, right? So that was easy enough. I decided again on doing organic curvy sidewalks instead of straight lines in order to keep a consistent design language throughout the entire complex. By the time I got back to this corner of the actual park, I was having difficulties making it look not funky. It needed a redesign, and so I honestly just decided for a quick opt-in to add another quick row of parking. Quick and easy, didn't have to think about it too much, and I think it looks fine. Also had the idea to add this looped sidewalk section, which has a double function. So it adds spacing for a few clusters of row houses and also limits the area I need to still design as actual park area. I feel like it kind of also creates a bit of livelihood by adding a quote middle housing aspect for those familiar with density planning. I intentionally set these row houses back to be close to the sidewalks so that they would have private-ish back porch access to the walking areas. I think the distanced houses did actually look a lot better being offset from the sidewalk, but obviously it did also, as you can see, cause a couple issues where the nodes of the actual driveway didn't quite connect to the sidewalk, and so you kind of had like weird gapping issues. Easy enough to fix though, so not a big deal. Since the goal of this project was to have a cohesive community feel to this condo complex, the current blend of anything goes color schemes was honestly really bothering me. It didn't look great and it kind of just looked like it was thrown together, which in fair defense it kind of was, but I wanted it to look more cohesive. The quickest and easiest fix, of course, was to use Recolor, and so I felt like a two-toned tan combo would be fitting and a little bit less intrusive. I tried a white and gray tone at first, but I felt like it was just a bit too disruptive and kind of stood out like a sore thumb. This part of the build is actually what took the most time out of literally anything else, especially since, once again, this build was entirely a proof of concept, and detailing does take quite a bit of time. According to my video, this part of the build took a little under 22 minutes, and you'll see why here in a second. So I started off by adding this pond to at least keep part of my original 3 ideas of what I wanted to do, and I figured a small pond was a lot easier to integrate than a full-size lake. Of course, this pond is pretty deep because you can't really do smaller water structures in this game without, honestly, just the water disappearing. And I don't want any kids or pets wandering into it, so we're going to put up a quick security fence. This build is, of course, based on Florida, so we're going to start by adding some quick palm trees. After that, we're going to go through and add some clusters of bushes throughout the area to kind of separate some of this green space. Yes, I accidentally just put one in a tree. Pretend you didn't see that. With some bushes added, I had the idea to add some sand textures to this pond area, and while I do really enjoy the look of it now, I'm honestly not sure where the idea came from, because if I were to record this video today, I probably wouldn't do the same thing. But I do really enjoy the like oasis look of having, you know, a very sandy pond area. I think it looks awesome. I'm just curious kind of where the thought came from. I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Also, I didn't want to have like this bright sandy colored desert, for lack of better words. I didn't want this like super bright area to like stand out from the rest of the build. And so I did actually have the idea to use the sand textures pack by Sully. This is going to be the white sand textures. And I wanted to create some like boundary areas of like medium and soft sand blends in between where there's like the normal game texture grass areas and where there's the sandy lake area. I think it looks really good, and it did take quite a bit of time. This is actually probably the process of this entire video that took the longest overall, just because it was so much like very precise movement. I couldn't quite just do it as I went. I had to, be precise. So as you can see, there isn't little janky tiny spots because I'm a perfectionist and it would bother the crap out of me if it was even slightly wrong. So yeah, so I just went through and made sure everything looked good. Quick editor's note before you guys yell at me in the comments. I will go back through later on in the video, right around the end of the video, to add trees into these areas. So if you see areas that aren't grassed, aren't decorated, anything like that, wait until the end of the video before you yell at me in the comments section. Oh, and speaking of trees, before you think I'm lazy and willing to let this project be entirely ugly, no, I did not leave this barren. I decided to go back through and add some more of the same palm trees, some more bushes scattered throughout, and just kind of generally doing a bit more decoration and landscaping in this area. Yeah, I just love this project. Honestly, this is a lot of fun doing the decorating. And I honestly really want to do it again. Like, I really have the inspiration to like redo this in a better way, but I don't feel like having to record and edit it again. So this is gonna work. This is gonna be my only instance of this. I'm not gonna go back through and do it, but just know that in my brain, I love how this turned out, and I would love to do it again in another instance in another area. So I'm actually curious, if you were doing this build, what would you have done differently? What would you have added? What would you have not done that I did? I think this turned out really awesome looking overall, and honestly really proud of it. But there are, like I said before, there are a couple things that I would change the next time around, and so I'm just curious if any of that stuff lines up with what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. you guys know I love the small details that really nobody else notices, so here you go to those who appreciate that stuff as well. One of the final pieces of this build is literally just a guard shack. That's it. Easy enough to make, starting with a custom median road that I made. Add these little no parking lines on either side, a guard booth, parking lot arms for each side, and you're good to go. Once again, probably nobody other than me cares about this, but I wanted to add the complex's color scheme to the service vehicles in the office parking lot. I also did the same with a police car, and I added one of the presidential FBI vehicles just to the parking lot to kind of look like maybe the owner or something like that. Super quick connection to the city. And yeah, that's good to me. All right, as I promised earlier, here's me adding trees. So you guys aren't allowed to yell at me because I didn't leave it looking in completely like crap, okay? So here you go. Look, detailing music. Game almost tried to crash there, or it was auto-saving. I don't know. And we're done. And final piece of the puzzle is we're just going to add a quick gate to the outside of this place, and we should be good to go. Also, I wanted to add a quick few little sections of low density commercial and housing just to boost some of the demand in this area. Not a lot, just a couple little spots, and I think it looks good. Doing a quick look over, and honestly, I think this looks so good. I want to take the rest of the video to just chat quickly about expectations moving forward, so please bear with me. To start, I want to apologize for being so inactive, as life and work have honestly kicked my ass the past few months. I've truly never been this exhausted in my life. Second, I really want to ask all of you a favor. If you've got any ideas on what we should do next for this city, please let me know in the comments. After not having worked on this series for basically 5 months, I've not only lost all direction on what I previously had planned for future episodes of the series, but I'm not gonna lie, I've sort of also lost a bit of inspiration in terms of producing new episodes, just in general. Even in recording this 25-minute episode, it took only about 3 hours worth of gameplay footage to produce, and about 6 or 7 days of procrastination to edit the damn video in its final form. Seriously, not even joking. I'd like to aim for a video every week, if not 2, but I'm also entertaining the idea of producing short videos with quick build ideas around the city, probably 5 to 10 minutes each, with longer 20 to 30 minute videos once or twice a month when I've got the inspiration and ability. Please let me know what you think of that idea. And finally, just a huge thanks to those of you who have stuck around, even if it's just by staying subscribed. It's a huge help, and I appreciate all of you. Until next episode.